This is ABC7 News at 7, your Suncoast News. We're here for you.
We have to plan for the worst case scenario of that rapid intensification of the storm coming in at Cat 3, Cat 4. And so our shelters need to be the safest shelters that we put residents in. And that's the decision process we used in Irma.
Hurricane Irma aftermath. It has been 4 months. Did we learn from any mistakes? Good evening, everyone. I'm Alan Cohen, and welcome to ABC7 at 7. We'll have more on lessons learned from Hurricane Irma in a moment. But first, our top 7 stories at 7. We are just 24 hours away from the most anticipated political debates in one of the tightest contested races on the Suncoast in years. For the first and only time, all 3 candidates in the special election for House 72 will be right here. Republican James Buchanan, Democrat Margaret Good, and Libertarian Allison Foxhall will all be in studio at the trapezoid, answering questions asked by me and by you.
I think he's done an amazing job for this area, but I'm my own man, and if elected, I will continue to fight each and every day for this district.
It's a really exciting time, and it's so great to feel like you have not just big money behind you, but you have everyone behind you.
People are just like live and let live, and that's the libertarian message, and I think that resonates here.
If you have any questions you would like us to ask the candidates, this is your last chance to submit them. Just send them to me on Twitter at Alan M. Cohn. A Northport man is being charged with attempted murder after police say he got into an argument with family members. Police say 25-year-old Michael Martin used a gun to fire at a family member before leaving the home. Martin was arrested yesterday and police recovered the weapon. He is currently in the Sarasota County Jail on no bond. A Sarasota couple is facing felony charges of child neglect after doctors found injuries on their 2-month-old daughter. Magdalena Perez Lopez and Martin Gomez were arrested on child abuse charges. The parents had taken the girl to Sarasota Memorial Hospital because she wasn't eating. After discovering injuries to the child, doctors sent her to All Children's Hospital and notified the sheriff's office. The couple was arrested and is now being held on a $100,000 bond at the Sarasota County Jail. The Sarasota County Sheriff's Office is investigating a shooting around 9:30 a.m. A shooting was reported inside a home on Beneva Woods Circle in Sarasota. Detectives say those involved know each other but aren't releasing any specific details and are asking the public for help.
Well, certainly, we value information from the public, so if anyone has information, it's helpful to us. There's no information that does not help us in our investigation. But again, it's important that the community understands this all happened inside a contained area, and we have everyone that we've been looking for and everyone that's involved. So we believe all parties at this time are accounted for.
One person was taken to the hospital with serious injuries. It is that time of year again. The Suncoast Partnership to End Homelessness is counting the homeless again. Workers and volunteers pounding the pavement, collecting data on the number of homeless on the street, in shelters and transitional houses. About 70 volunteers are deployed along with on city streets, sidewalks, and shelters, asking the homeless where they are sleeping. The point-in-time survey tracks trends in the homeless population throughout a 2-county area. The 2018 homeless census will be used by the Federal Department of Housing and Urban Development.
Those numbers are compiled and provided to HUD, and those numbers become part of our funding and become part of the attention that's given to our community for this purpose of helping the homeless.
The organization will have the numbers tallied up by March. Nearly 3 months after suspending fraternity and sorority activities following the death of a pledge, Florida State University's president is announcing some Greek life activities will resume. Beginning Monday, portions of the suspension will be lifted to allow for recruitment and philanthropy. However, a ban on alcohol remains. During a news conference on campus, FSU's president outlined new requirements, including each group maintaining a minimum 2.5 grade point average and 10 documented service hours per semester. This comes months after a student died at a frat hazing event from alcohol poisoning.
I'm counting on our Greek community and their leaders to make sure that they are the champions of this cultural change and to lead by example for the good of our Florida State University family.
As we move forward, Florida State University is going to be even more clear about our expectations and values. We're going to increase oversight, both by the university, by advisors, and by the national organizations.
FSU's administration says if the initial changes are implemented successfully, some social events with alcohol may be added later this semester. Now let's head over to ABC7's chief meteorologist Bob Harrigan with the first alert forecast. Bob.
Big changes. Yesterday's rain came through heavy at times, over an inch reported at the Sarasota-Bradenton Airport. Most everyone had over an inch of rainfall here along the Suncoast, 3 inches in Tampa. And then today the clouds in advance of the actual cold front. The cold front made its way through just around midday, and you can see those clouds clearing and just a little glimmer of sunshine for the sunset. Wasn't the best tonight. Currently we have some clouds, 61 degrees. Dew point temperature continues to drop, and that means our temperatures will do so too. We'll get close to average, a little bit below that tomorrow morning, but the big story will be that wind out of the north, anywhere from 10 to 15 to start the day off tomorrow. We'll put wind chills down in the low 40s. That's right, low 40s. So bundle up and bundle the kids up heading to school tomorrow. Northwest winds now at Anna Maria 17. They're coming down a little bit, but still brisk out there. 13 at Lakewood Ranch and Venice now. You're at 15, Northport 12, and 15 at Rotunda. Well, the upper level clouds continue to move from the southwest to the northeast right now. That's the jet stream, but the cold front now is well down to our south. You can see some of that. The action of the jet stream really fired up the storms yesterday, being over the top of the front itself as it made its way through, allowed those storms to breathe and really gain some strength in terms of heavy rainfall. Here's your evening planner then as we see it through Monday. Monday night, we'll see temperatures still into the mid-50s, upper 50s across the region. 11 o'clock should be around 58 degrees, but the big story will be that wind just goes right through you. It feels like it. Temperatures right now currently 61 in Sarasota, 63 in Orlando, 57 now in Jacksonville. We'll have much more on this cold snap and let you know about how things will warm up a little bit later in this week.
Well, at least the pool is filled now.
Yeah, it's got a lot of water. No one's going to go in it, though. It's too cold.
Right.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Bob. And still to come, Hurricane Irma hit the Suncoast 4 months ago. What did we do right, and did we do anything wrong?
My life motto is keep moving. And as hard as it was when my husband passed away, I knew I had to keep doing what I love. Oops, coming. But I needed help with my insurance, and that's what the NAIC provides. They have resources to help you and your family make the best decision, and they'll help you to keep moving forward, just like me.
This is an important announcement. If you're between 50 and 85 and worried about your loved ones, you can still get affordable life insurance for peace of mind.
My life insurance coverage is guaranteed, and I was not required to get a medical exam.
I had high blood pressure and diabetes, and I got my coverage with one telephone call. No exam necessary.
I'm a smoker, and I wanted to take care of my family. I called to get my life insurance and my affairs in order. I wanted to do the right thing.
Call Final Expense No Exam Insurance. Your rates are guaranteed and will never increase.
I called and learned that this insurance cannot be canceled even if you get sick or gain weight.
And there are no restrictions on how my beneficiaries use the money when I'm gone.
Approval was easy and the price was right. I wanted to do this for my children.
Call 800-738-9812. 800-738-9812.
Every year, 40% of all food in the U.S. never gets eaten.
40%. That's almost half the food we produce.
Food waste is a serious problem. It impacts all of us.
And it's expensive. Your family is throwing $1,500 a year in the trash.
We're working hard to put food waste on the chopping block.
And you can do the same at home.
Learn how to cook it, store it, and share it.
Just don't waste it.
Go to savethefood.com.
WWSB ABC7 is an equal opportunity employer, and we're looking for qualified people to join our dynamic team. For a list of current openings and to apply online, visit www.mysuncoast.com/contact/employment. If you're a motivated team player and you want a rewarding career in a fun, fast-paced working environment, WWSB ABC7 could be the perfect fit for you. Check out our list of openings now. ABC7 News at 7, weeknights.
Hurricane Irma left a mark on the Suncoast, even though it was only a fraction of the strength many expected it to be once it finally reached our area. ABC7's Adam Cellini is here to explain why the record storm is still fresh in the minds of many. Adam.
Yeah, Alan, that storm is costing Sarasota and Manatee counties a combined $30 million and counting. But more importantly, it has many reevaluating how they prepare for hurricane season.
When I came back, I came to quite a mess.
Few suffered more surprises after Hurricane Irma than Craig Coach. He returned home to find holes in his roof and flooding from a water main break. The cause? One massive tree.
About $30,000 worth of repairs, and we're not finished yet.
The storm also tripled Coach's homeowner's insurance deductible, and when he tried applying for FEMA aid,
we found out that someone had already filed a claim using our name and Social Security number payable to a debit card that they had purchased at Walmart.
Irma wasn't the Sarasota native's first storm, but it does have him second-guessing his hurricane plan, and he's not alone. Sarasota County Emergency Services Director Rich Collins says over 20,000 residents were sheltered, the most ever, exposing some gaps, like the need for more shelters that can withstand a Category 4 or 5 storm.
We had a number of shelters on our list, over 20, but not all of them are what we call EHPA, or Enhanced Hurricane Protection Area shelters, and those shelters are designed to handle Category 4, Category 5 winds.
Those up to code were overrun. In Northport, Charlotte County residents outnumbered Sarasota 2-1 due to their lack of proper shelters.
We had people from the East Coast all the way up to Tampa coming, and no help.
Next time, Collins and his team may open all shelters at once, switch out those flood zone letters with more exact locations, and try to upgrade existing shelters to that higher structural category.
What are we going to do for the future to identify other buildings that we can harden or are hardened to that level? And then the transportation planning to get people to those shelters.
One of Manatee County's biggest industries, agriculture, is also reeling. The estimated loss in citrus exceeds $2 million, and tomatoes, which rank highest in the state for production, are expecting a 50% loss in yield. For state cattle farmers, the damage is over $200 million and will last for years.
It's imperative that a cow, when she has a calf, that she gets bred and pregnant to have a calf the next year. Due to that stress, there's a number of cattle that wouldn't rebreed when they should have, and probably some that lost some calves that they were already pregnant with.
Pines of Sarasota is being forced to change their plan. Governor Rick Scott is pushing new laws requiring generators and extra fuel at all state nursing homes after 12 residents died in South Florida. A time-consuming and costly endeavor.
It is an issue, and that's why everyone protested at the time the government issued his emergency regulations. We built our facility based on the recommendations of the Healthcare Administration, and we thought we were sitting well.
And homeowners on the Suncoast were nearly on the hook for an unprecedented $1.3 billion in restoration costs for Florida Power and Light. But thanks to the anticipated savings from President Trump's recently passed tax plan, rates this year are instead expected to drop.
Well, actually, it'll save the average customer about $250. In March of this year, customer bills will be going down by about $3.35. And as a result of that, the typical FPL customer bill will now be roughly 30% lower than the national average.
FPL customers waited an average of 2 days to have their power restored, and that's something the company would like to improve on before next year. As for Coach, he could also be saving money on insurance after researching new providers for the first time in years.
I actually found out that there's some companies out there that are rated as well or better that in which the premiums are lower than what I'm paying now.
He advises others take a closer look at their own preparations, then imagine how it could be uprooted by a superstorm.
Now, Sarasota County's performance has been reviewed by former FEMA Director Craig Fugate, and they will be presenting his findings coming up on a meeting on February 9th.
Adam, thank you. They built that trapezoid to withstand anything, and when we return, that's where we'll be.
This is an important medical announcement. Bard IVC filters have been linked to punctured veins and problems with migration. Anyone who's received a Bard IVC filter must receive medical monitoring and may be entitled to substantial compensation. If you have the Bard Recovery G2 or G2 Express filter, you are in a class of patients who should be compensated for some expenses.
Call now for a free assessment of your case and potential money damages. This call is confidential. There's no cost and you may be eligible. Juries have awarded millions of dollars to people who should have been warned about the risks of the barred IVC filters. Call the IVC filter hotline if you or a loved one has received an IVC filter and experienced a vein puncture or required medical monitoring. You must call now.
Call 800-329-3089. 800-329-3089.
Thanks to the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, what was once impossible is happening today for thousands of patients with blood cancer.
I live.
I live. I live. I live.
I live.
She lives.
Because of the research done by the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society in the battle against blood cancer.
If you had a chance to support the research that is saving lives, what would you do?
My name is Stephen Jaffe. The law firm's name is Farmer Jaffe. One of the beautiful things about Julius is he's always smiling, and it becomes infectious. The fact that Julius has a disability has absolutely nothing to do with the quality of work that he's done. Just a great person you want on your staff.
Hi, this is Dan Marino. When your business recruits people with disabilities, everybody wins. To find out how, go to disabilitieswork.employflorida.com.
Performing on stage takes mental and physical preparation. But one thing I never thought to prepare for was cervical cancer. 91% of cervical cancers are caused by the human papillomavirus, or HPV. The good news is there are vaccines that can protect you or your children from cancer. I survived my cancer, but you can stop cancer before it starts. Talk to your doctor and go to thinkaboutthelink.org to learn more.
Welcome back. What did we learn, and are we ready for the next big one? Irma was a minimal hurricane when it got here, but she still had plenty of fight. It took days and in some cases weeks to get power restored to homes and businesses, longer still to clean up the mess, and there are still lingering questions, including whether assisted living facilities should be required to have generators and the fuel to run them for days. And joining us for more are Rich Collins, Director of Emergency Services for Sarasota County, Chuck Henry of the Sarasota County Health Department, Scott Lemke, an Assistant Superintendent for the Sarasota County Schools, and Paul Hartman of the Pines of Sarasota. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us. And Rich, basically the survey that we are in the middle of right now, done by the former head of FEMA, what do you want to learn? What is the purpose of it?
Well, through the gracious assistance of the Branchick Foundation and the Gulf Coast Community Foundation, we're able to bring in Craig to review our processes from an outside review to see how we did, what did we do well, what would we do different, are there any lessons for us to learn, and along with that we've asked 3 peer reviewers from the state, Jonathan Lord from the Florida Department of Emergency Management, Manny Soto from the City of Orlando, and Alan Harris from Seminole County, to come in and take a look at our processes and give us that feedback.
There are so many parts of our lives and our professional lives that were impacted by the hurricane here. From the Department of Health, how did we do, and what do you think are the main obstacles or challenges that we face next time a storm comes through that you were not aware of?
Well, I think we did fairly well, but there's tremendous lessons learned. This is probably the largest storm we've had, at least in my tenure here at the Health Department. And with a storm like that, you get to see weaknesses in your system that you wouldn't otherwise see. And
like
we were
what?
fortunate,
Yeah.
well, like a need for larger shelter space, more shelter, a better way to ensure residents register for the special needs shelter, those with medical needs in advance. We had hundreds registering the day before, which really made it difficult to make sure that we had space.
You know, Scott, in Adam's story, he was talking about the shelters and the schools and their roles, and part of that, and that some of the schools are more reinforced than others. Is the school department embarked on the situation where you are actively trying to consider how you're going to reinforce these structures?
Yes, and a lot of it has to do with just the age of the building. I mean, our inventory includes schools like Southside that were built in the late 1920s, and schools as new as Atwater Elementary School in Northport, which will withstand today 180-mile-an-hour winds. So as you look across that inventory and how building codes change, we talk about if you're going to pick a building to reinforce, which one do you pick, and then what does it cost to reinforce?
And Paul, I don't know if I could look at one industry more impacted than the assisted living industry because of that terrible tragedy in Hollywood where so many elderly died because their generators were not sufficient. And Governor Scott, in order to make sure something like this does not happen again, is requiring facilities like yours to have generators and the fuel to run them for several days. But there is some pushback. And what is the nature of that?
The nature of the pushback is this. There were recommendations formulated by the Administration for Healthcare in Florida and in the United States and CMS, and they had guidelines for providing generators in the past. Many of us added generators to our facilities to be ready for an instance like this. Now what we find is the governor had promulgated some new regulations that exceeded those regulations. So where you think you're prepared, you now have to go back into the process, go for approvals for additional fuel, perhaps larger generators or different circumstances. So what happens is when you make a rule like that, you have to allow the time to do it. A simple example is going through ACA, which is the Administration for Healthcare. It could take 3 to 6 months to get an approval just for a larger fuel tank for your generator.
All right, we have so much more to talk about on that issue and the other issues. We are getting warmed up, and we'll have more on the lessons learned from Irma right after we check the first alert weather. Stay with us.
It's been about a month, and I can honestly say I've seen the change in me. I went from being a depressed girl who didn't want help to this happy, caring girl who loves helping other people. I just really hope that people that went through what I went through get the help that they need, because their story is important and they are loved. Thank you so much for everything.
Are you a food lover, restaurant goer, or home cook? Then check out My Suncoast Dining on mysuncoast.com, your guide to the foodie lifestyle. ABC7's own Chef Judy serves up her favorite recipes, cooking tips and trends, dining blogs, and helpful step-by-step videos. And you'll love the restaurant guide with direct links to your favorite Suncoast eateries. Whether you're cooking in or dining out, whet your appetite with tasty tips from Chef Judy at mysuncoast.com/dining.
I am the resident district manager on the FAU campus for Chartwell. Whenever I see Haley, I do not see a person with a disability. I see a person with extraordinary abilities. Haley is always smiling. She's always on time. She gives fantastic customer service and is always focused on any job that she's given.
Hi, this is Dan Marino. When your business recruits people with disabilities, everybody wins. To find out how, go to disabilitieswork.employflorida.com.
ABC7, your Suncoast News. We're here for you. Watch ABC7 wherever you are, on our live stream, on mysuncoast.com, on the ABC7 My Suncoast app, powered by the Eye Associates, providing sight for life, featuring traffic maps and live radar, dining with recipes, and My Suncoast Restaurant Guide. Visit mysuncoast.com. Click on the Apps tab to download the ABC7 My Suncoast app for Apple and Android.
It doesn't take a scientist to cure hunger or a fancy economist to create safe housing. It takes imagination, creativity, sweat equity. And I think of kids going to school hungry. Hunger, homelessness. In this land of plenty, seriously? Come on, we could fix this. Help out, or don't. The choice is yours.
Our conversation on the lessons learned from Irma continues right after we get a check on the first alert forecast with Chief Meteorologist Bob Harrigan. Bob.
Thanks, Ellen. Irma was an amazing storm, wasn't it? I wanted to show the GOES 16 visible imagery of what Irma was doing as a Category 5 hurricane. You can see even small vortices in the center of the storm, the eye of the storm, if you will. And that happens when these storms get up to Category 5 status. You get multiple vortices in the eye itself. Just an amazing storm it was. And Looks like we had our storms yesterday and produced a lot of rainfall, but nothing like Irma. We had 3 inches at the Tampa Bay Airport. That was a record for that amount of rainfall in just a short period of time. Van Wezel webcam for that day anyway. Not much of a sunset tonight due to the cloud cover. Low clouds behind the front. We have this north to northwest wind. It'll be cool for the next 2 days now. So we're talking temperatures below average, especially on Wednesday morning when lows will get down to the low 40s. It'll feel like the low 40s tomorrow with that wind blowing, but our temperature will actually be right around 50 degrees. Better weekend ahead than we saw this past. And it looks like another front is due to arrive late Sunday night and Monday. That'll be our next chance for some rainfall. So there are several things going on. One is that the cold front is now well through our area. It extends all the way down into the Atlantic and right through South Florida right now. And then behind it, the winds have really switched around to the north-northwest as a result of this area of high pressure now, which continues to develop and move in our direction. But the wind's rotating around it in a clockwise fashion. So we're getting this north to northwesterly wind flow, and that will bring in the cooler temperatures. It already has. We'll continue to do so on Tuesday. Tuesday night, Wednesday morning, we'll start to gradually warm up by Wednesday, but still below average. The day planner looks like this. Bundle up as you head outdoors in the morning. Although the temperature will be 52, it'll feel more like 42 due to the wind. And the high tomorrow, only 62, 10 degrees below our normal for this time of year by 3 o'clock in the afternoon. There'll be a mixture of sun and clouds. I think more sunshine, though, for us tomorrow, definitely. 61 degrees right now. The dew point is at 55. Winds out of the north-northwest at 13. And the pressure 30.05. That continues to rise rapidly as that high pressure ridge is building in from the northwest. The high today was 70 and the low was 61. Now, as far as the rainfall goes, I wanted to show you this graphic. Got 0.08 of an inch at the Sarasota Bradenton Airport. That was after midnight, but before that, we had 1.32 inches at the airport, so quite a bit of rain for us even yesterday. Well, temperature forecast tonight calling for temperatures to drop down in the low 50s right along the coastline, a little bit cooler inland. Then highs tomorrow will only warm into the low 60s for the most part, and it will feel colder as a result of that northerly wind blowing throughout much of the day. And then we will see temperatures dropping down into the low 40s on Wednesday morning, but by 8 a.m. should get up to about 46 degrees. We'll be in the low 40s for the most part. So tomorrow's forecast, start off low 50s, warm up right around 62 degrees in the afternoon hour with partly cloudy skies anticipated. Should be a nice sunset tomorrow with a lot more sunshine around. Current temperatures, it's much colder in Minot though, 13 in Minneapolis, 22 in Chicago, 26 now into St. Louis. Temperatures moderating a bit over the southern plain states. Into Texas, Dallas, it's 51 degrees. Now, the long-range model shows this deep purple. This is where that Arctic air is. There's another shot of it coming our way. I don't think it's going to make it all the way down here, but we will see cooler temperatures than average to begin, looks like Monday and Tuesday of next week will start to cool down once again. So tonight, partly cloudy, breezy, much cooler, and north winds at 10 to 15, and temperature 50 degrees at Lakewood Ranch. We'll see into the low 50s right there at Longboat Key and Siesta Key. Here's the extended forecast then. High tomorrow in the low 60s. Lots of sunshine, though, through Friday. Look at this, spectacular on Thursday and Friday. We'll have high temperatures in the low 70s. That continues on into Saturday. And although Sunday, a little bit more increase in clouds with the next frontal system, there'll be a slight chance for a shower or two come late Sunday and into early Monday. Right now, it's favoring more a Monday morning kind of situation. Alan will be back with his guest discussing Irma coming up right after this.
My name is Luke Perry, and I am 1 million strong. I'm in the fight against colorectal cancer because I believe we can win it. Colon and rectal cancers are the second leading cause of cancer deaths among men and women in the U.S. Colon cancer is preventable. Know the risk factors and make sure to get screened. There are simple take-home options available. Take control of your health. Screening for colon cancer isn't embarrassing. It can be life-saving. To find out more about your options, visit fightcrc.org.
To be able to just get my son here and not think about how we will pay for it, it just takes so much weight off of my family. St. Jude allowed me to focus on being a mom to Bryce. And sometimes I'm just in awe of the impact St. Jude has, not only on this community, but the world.
That is a pretty good breakfast. You're not even eating.
Not hungry.
No? Why not? What's up?
Kath and I knew that Jenny had been partying a bit. Found out she tried heroin.
Most people don't know what to say about drugs, but we do. Visit us at drugfree.org.
Many websites selling medication may look professional and legitimate, but the vast majority of sites selling prescription drugs are doing so illegally. Criminals use websites to sell counterfeit medications that may contain life-threatening toxins. Dot Pharmacy is a website verification program that helps you identify safe and trustworthy online pharmacies. Purchasing medicine online can be safe and easy. Just look for pharmacy to the right of the dot in website addresses.
Everybody can make something, because I think everyone has a spark of creativity, and the reason that I have to keep making is because I don't think my life would be as fulfilling without it. If you make things yourself, that means you're not cowering in fear. You're out there taking chances. That, I think, is my way of saying I love you to the world. All right, now I want to hear why you make.
Share your own Why I Make story today. Visit whyimake.org.
Welcome back, and we are talking about the lessons learned from Irma and the next big storm. Joining us for more is Rich Collins, Director of Emergency Services for Sarasota County, Chuck Henry of the Sarasota County Health Department, Scott Lempe, Assistant Superintendent of the Sarasota County Schools, and Paul Hartman of the Pines of Sarasota. Gentlemen, let me ask you this. Irma was so unique because it went from the southern part of the state right up the gut, basically. How did that complicate what you all did in terms of preparing for it and execution? Because we didn't know whether we should evacuate, and people from other parts of the state like Miami, they evacuated to here and so forth.
You know, Alan, as a storm approaches about 140 hours out, and Irma had a long approach into the state, and so we were watching spaghetti models with everybody else as it was approaching. At 120 plus hours out, our team is already gathering, and we look at worst case scenario, best case, and most probable. And best case would have been off the East Coast, which early on was what we were seeing. Most probable, we looked at a state or spine impact coming up the state, and then worst case, wrapping around the state and coming up. And quite frankly, as we were in Saturday evening, we were still seeing a storm that was going to wrap around and come up the coast, which would have been the worst case scenario for us. But early on, we looked at all of our shelters and what shelters would open, and identified that because of that worst case, we were going to only open our enhanced hurricane protection area shelters, because we want to make sure we put people in the most safest locations. But it was a very trying time for us as we looked at that storm moving across from east up the state and then finally going up the state as we saw.
And Chuck, from a health department perspective, did you have enough people at the right places at the right time?
Well, we can always use more, and we're constantly adjusting our staffing, and this storm brought the numbers to our shelters that we've never seen before. And I think between the two shelters that we operated, we had over 1,000 individuals with medical special needs and their caregivers. If we combine those two together, about 700 individuals and then 300 caregivers with them, plus the staffing at those institutions. Additionally, the county opened up another school in Northport to help shelter those with special needs coming out of Charlotte that had nowhere else to go. So there were actually 3 large special needs shelters that participated in this event.
Scott, if I was to ask you, what is the one thing that the school department learned that it needs to do differently next time, what would that be?
Sure, well, I'll give you 2, just piggybacking on what you just heard. The answer to our question, do we have the right staff? No. I think if we had to do it again, when we prepare to do it again, we will staff those schools very differently. We'll think about the skills that you need in the shelters. We'll think about just the number of people that it takes to manage the flow of people when you have 20,000 citizens in 13 shelters. So that'd be number 1. The second thing that I think really caught us by surprise is pets. Not only the number of pets, but people's connection to their pet. If you gave me a choice between coming into the shelter without my pet or not coming in at all, people are just not coming in at all. And so Rich and I have talked a lot about, as we look to the future, how do we find a way to make all of our shelters pet friendly, and what does that look like?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I know how people feel about their pets, and I know that there were people who were put into situations that they made very difficult choices. But when you're talking about in terms of personnel, numbers of personnel, and where they needed to be more specific in terms of where you thought you kind of came up short.
Sure. So I put it under the heading, I guess, generally of crowd control. So Northport High School, I think we ended up with about 3,700 evacuees in Northport High School. So how many staff does it take to just safely manage 3,700 people in a number of different buildings at Northport High School? And so not even a specific skill set, but just the ability to get people to where they need to be, make sure they understand where and how they get to food and when the meals are served, where the bathrooms are, just managing the numbers of people.
And Paul, you told me during the break that you are already writing plans to change things up from what you already had based upon what your experience was here.
Yes, we've immediately following the storm, we had meetings to talk about what went well, what didn't go well. And hearing what the other gentlemen are talking about, it's funny because pets was an issue at our place as well. Many of our family members brought pets, and of course that was something we didn't really expect in the numbers that we got, and we also had more people than ever before during a storm come with the staff.
Now, correct, we were also talking about the fact that your strategy is when events come like this, if the storm was even more severe, would to be shelter in place. So, I mean, a lot of people watching this might just say if any place needed to have generators that were up for that task, it would be an assisted living facility like yours.
Yeah, and Pines is very lucky. Some years ago, our board of directors and the management team at Pines decided that we would have generators so we can operate as normal without power from FP&L. And we've been doing that for probably 20 years now. And so we're well prepared for a storm as far as power goes. And also then cooling, because we run our air conditioning and we operate as normal during a storm. We had a generator fail during that storm, but we were very fortunate. We got power back shortly after. And also we had moved people to the cooler areas on our campus, so we were very lucky people.
Rich, let me ask you this, because you know, obviously we are embarked in terms of our own after-action report by Craig Fugate, but the state and the legislature is also doing its own thing. Or in any way, do the two studies conflict with each other?
Well, I think from a local level, we're looking at what did we do well and what would we do different if we had to do it again, kind of to Scott's point. And so while the state's looking at things from a perspective of hardening and those types of things which are important to us as well, we're looking at our process of how did we do from a leadership standpoint of making decisions to protect citizens during the storm. And we're asking Craig to do that. And Craig's already kind of come back and said some things in various meetings as we've talked about sheltering. There's a lot of things we're already looking at. We're not just waiting for Craig to come back with that after-action report. We've already begun the process, a number of things, looking at shelters, evacuations. That was a problematic thing during the storm. Is it a mandatory evacuation, voluntary evacuation? We're going to evacuation.
Well, let me ask you gentlemen this question. I mean, obviously you're all coming up with different plans and looking at what went right, what went wrong. What do you, aside from the weather itself, what do you not have control of? And I'm thinking specifically about the state and federal response that you are telling those folks that they need to really do differently.
Money. As Rich talks about some of the things we're looking at, you asked before about our buildings and what can be in shelter and what can't. And so we think about two really big things. Number one is if we want to put generators in more of our shelters so that we can support a more prolonged event, where does the money come from? How do you afford to do that? As we think about the buildings that we have right now that don't meet current code, and you pick one and say, Venice Middle School, for example, we need to reinforce it to meet current code. That's a significant conversation. That's probably a $6 or $8 million conversation. So where does the money come from? So I think that's one of the big things.
One of the things I'm also thinking about was the transportation issue that, you know, our highways were clogged going, you know, whether it's I-75 or the highways on the other side of the state, and that did have an impact in terms of who got off the road where and what you had in terms for them to be around here.
Well, we look at evacuations. I mean, obviously early on we had a lot of folks coming from the Miami area because that's where they were expecting the impact. And we worked very closely with the school district as well as the state and opened up a shelter early on for evacuees that would be coming from the south. And then we opened up our other shelters in a phased approach as we look at our evacuations from the barrier islands and low-lying areas. One of the things we'll do different next time around is open up all our shelters at the same time, our enhanced hurricane protection area shelters. There's some confusion with residents. I see this school and that's a shelter on a list. Well, it's not. an enhanced hurricane protection area shelter. So we're changing our list up for hurricane evacuation centers and making those decisions.
Chuck, we have less than a minute left, but I did want to ask you that we did not have mass casualties, thank goodness, for this. So is it fair to judge from a health point of view and safety point of view what worked and what did not work as well? And what you need in the future?
And we continue to look at what worked and what didn't work and what we think we can do better. You know, shelters, the general population shelter as well as the special needs are shelters of last resort. We always encourage people to shelter in place if they have a structure that supports it. The magnitude of this storm prevented some people from doing that and scared others into moving into the shelters, and we quickly became overwhelmed with the numbers and the pets.
Wow. All right, we have to take a quick break, and we'll be back for final thoughts in a moment.
Every child follows a path in life. For many, that path will lead them to a door that gives them a place to grow, to learn, to belong, a place to forge their future. Because while many doors open, these doors transform. They did for us. Support your local Boys and Girls Clubs. Great futures start here.
A decade of war has taken an unprecedented toll on our men and women in uniform.
Hundreds of thousands of our veterans are suffering from the trauma of war.
At Justice for Vets, we believe that every veteran should have the opportunity for treatment and restoration.
Get involved and go to justiceforvets.org.
Help put treatment within reach of veterans in crisis.
Veterans fought for our freedom. Now it's our turn to fight for theirs.
A promise was made, a promise that hit the beaches of Normandy, a vow that captured Iwo Jima, a contract that weathered Tet, a pledge that stormed the desert in Iraq, an IOU that braved IEDs in Kandahar. A promise was made to America's veterans. DAV fights to keep that promise, so all veterans and their families get the benefits and support they earned. For help, visit DAV.org.
Everybody has a dream. Mine was to see the ocean. And with a little help, I made it.
Tomorrow at 4 on Suncoast View.
I'm Stephanie Roberts. On Suncoast View, we meet one of Elvis Presley's private nurses and hear her unique stories. Plus, Black History Month celebrated in art.
Tomorrow at 4 on Suncoast View.
ABC7 News at 7, weeknights.
And our guests join us right now for final thoughts. And Paul, let me start with you. What was the one takeaway from Irma for you and your industry?
Well, for our industry, I think the generator situation that they addressed was a well-intentioned reaction to a bad occurrence in Miami-Dade County. Here in Sarasota and in many of the nursing homes, we followed the rules and we moved our own people to buildings and areas that were cool afterwards. So again, working the plan and following the rules and working your plan was the best thing we could take away.
Scott, when it comes to the schools?
Sure, I guess we've talked a lot about lessons learned. For me, the number one takeaway is this community ought to be immensely proud of the way that its public servants responded to this event. Not only heroic things that happened in our shelters and on the roads, and be very proud of the relationships that we have all built that made all that possible. For me, this is one of the highlights of my professional career.
And Chuck, when it comes to shelters and public health, what would that be?
Well, probably the number one takeaway is to provide better education to all of our citizens about what's available in special needs shelters, the need to register in advance for those shelters. Without that information, it's hard for us to plan for the specific medical needs and the supplies and numbers that we may need to support.
And Rich, what is the one thing from that Craig Fugate report you are waiting with bated breath to hear about?
I think the final report on shelters and how we work together, I think is really important. But I think the other big takeaway, as you bring up, is all of us having a plan. And we're working and reviewing our plans. Citizens, we're only 18 weeks away from the next hurricane season. being prepared and ready to take action if another one
Are
comes.
any of you concerned, we only have a couple of seconds left, that the farther we get out from these kinds of events, the less prepared and the less it's on the minds of people who live around here?
Absolutely. The longer that between a disaster occurs, people tend to forget until the next one comes.
Okay, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us tonight. FYI, you can watch past discussions on demand. They're available on Apple TV, Amazon Fire, and Roku. And for the latest on local breaking news, don't forget to download the updated version of our app. If your current app doesn't work, it's expired. Just go to the App Store and re-download it by searching for WWSB or My Suncoast. We want to thank all our guests for being here tonight. Rich Collins is the Director of Emergency Services for Sarasota County. Chuck Henry is with the Sarasota County Health Department. Scott Lumpy is Assistant Superintendent of the Sarasota County Schools, and Paul Hartman is with the Pines of Sarasota. When we return, we'll have a final look at your first alert weather. Plus, as President Trump prepares for his first State of the Union address, the FBI Deputy Director leaves his position. What does this mean for the Russia investigation when we come back?
Here's something we bet you didn't know. Nearly half of all cancers can be prevented. That's right, half. Nearly 50%, mostly by making small everyday changes in your diet and controlling your weight, walking more, eating less, and eating foods that help you and your family to seriously reduce the risk of cancer. And of course, by not smoking. Visit the Cancer Prevention Together We Can website and get a free 30-day planner filled with tips, recipes, stats, and more about protecting your family. Go to prevent50.org.
Designers do it with style.
Tell me what's going on here. Because
Why, you don't like my hair? The Mark and Mandy Show. In-depth design ideas.
What is up with the tuck tape here? Let's cover it up.
Amazing beauty and fashion tips.
So Halle Berry has amazing skin. Her secret is coffee grounds.
No.
Delicious recipes.
Today, I'm going to show you a special dish that is sure to please that special someone in your life.
Watch the Mark and Mandy Show right here on your favorite channel.
It's me, Artie. Come see what I collected from the Creative Galaxy in my idea box.
Transform your world.
Will you help me make art?
Each one of our journeys keeps us. Before you throw it away,
Hey, I have an idea.
think outside the box.
We'll never get older. Each one Go be amazing!
Give your cardboard box another life. Recycle.
This is the story of a boy who is very sensitive to lights and sounds. So he built secret hiding places where nothing could get in. The boy didn't like looking people in the eye. It made him feel uncomfortable. One day, he found out he had something called autism. His family got him help. And slowly, he learned how to live with it better.
Early intervention can make a lifetime of difference. Learn the signs at autismspeaks.org.
Your primetime headlines are coming up in a moment, but right now let's get a final check on our first alert forecast with Chief Meteorologist Bob Harrigan. Bob.
Thanks, Alan. We are watching this front continue to push to the south right now. It brought us a lot of rainfall in a short period of time. Up to 3 inches reported at the Tampa airport yesterday. That set a record. We still have this upper level pattern where this jet stream continues to race overhead, bringing us some cirrus cloud, mid clouds. And then we have the low stratocumulus clouds as a result of that strong north to northwest wind that we've been seeing all day. Now we'll see those clouds clear out of there as the high pressure continues to move in from the northwest, and look for a lot more sunshine on Tuesday. But unfortunately, it's not going to warm things up because we're going to see a steady north wind throughout the day. So bundle up. You're sending the kids outdoors tomorrow morning on the way to school, and it looks like even recess later on in the day will be chilly as we're expecting temperatures to stay only into the really low 60s for highs tomorrow. It'll feel cooler, too, with that north wind. Take a look at the Euro forecast. This is a long-range forecast. Here comes another front. And look at this nasty weather with some freezing rain into West Virginia, into Kentucky, southern portions of Ohio. This is Thursday. Now, this front gets close to us on Friday, but for the most part falls apart. So we're not going to see a repeat performance of this front bringing us any kind of significant rainfall at all. We may see a little increase in cloudiness by midday Friday, but for the most part, sunshine up until then. But the next front is the one we'll keep an eye on. Look at this. Snow falling as far south as Tennessee, even into North Georgia. This is a Sunday morning. We'll still be in the clear here in Florida, looks like throughout much of the weekend, but then the clouds increasing later on Sunday. And then Sunday night, the European model a little slower, but looks like it should move through on Sunday night late, but more so Monday morning. That's when the next front will move through. and that's when our next big chance for rainfall will be. But until then, we stay dry here. 61 degrees right now. Dew point is at 55. Winds out of the north-northwest at 13. And temperatures currently up and down the coast. We have Holmes Beach at 60. 60 seems to be the popular number, even in Sarasota, from Osprey up to Lakewood Ranch, and also into Northport. They're a little bit warmer, but not much. 62. 60 in Venice and 60 in Inglewood. So tomorrow's forecast, although temperatures will be close to seasonal averages in the low 50s, with that north wind at 10 to 15, it will make it feel that much colder. In fact, we're talking wind chills into the low 40s for the most part for most everyone tomorrow to start the day off, and then we'll see a mixture of sun and clouds. More sun tomorrow than we saw today, though. Plenty more, and temperatures, though, into the low 60s for highs. Well, the wind chill temperatures now, it feels like 1 in Minot, 4 in Minneapolis, so the harsh winter weather continues in the upper Mississippi Valley. 6 in Detroit, and that wind chill even down to Cleveland feels like 14 degrees. There's another couple of runs of cold air, too, expected to come down over the next couple of weeks that we were watching at some of the long-range forecasts, so we'll keep an eye on those. But I think we've had the coldest air of the season thus far. That was a couple of weeks ago. Tomorrow's high temperatures will be in the upper 20s in Minneapolis, Chicago right there at freezing. Toronto will get to 19 tomorrow and 32 in Boston. And as far as those long-range models go, you see this big drop out of Canada there. It keeps dropping down and moving on into the east. It doesn't get all the way down into Florida, but it gets close to us. So over the upcoming weeks, we may see a couple of fronts come down like we're going to see like on Friday. That one falls apart. The one that comes down early Monday, though, will not fall spread out, and it will move right through, and we will see a chance for showers and cooler temperatures beginning next Monday and Tuesday. Well, here's the forecast, then 63 for your high tomorrow. We'll see some sunshine. It'll stay that way, too. Should be nice. We may see a little increase in cloudiness here with that front falling apart, but temperatures will stay fairly warm even on Saturday, right at seasonal averages anyway. That's not bad, 73. And then Sunday, increasing clouds late in the day with a chance for overnight showers and Monday morning. Rain chances the highest in the early morning hours on Monday. Prime time headlines is next with Alan. Stick around. He'll be right back.
Choral Artists of Sarasota presents Carmina Burana in Motion. Carl Orff's choral masterpiece, Carmina Burana, bursts into life in this lavish production designed for 60 voices, 3 celebrated soloists, a 2-piano percussion ensemble, and dynamic premiere choreography performed by members of Sarasota Contemporary Dance. Do not miss this lush feast of the senses. Saturday, February 3rd, 4 p.m. at Church of the Palms in Sarasota. Tickets and info are at choralartistsarasota.org or by calling 941-387-4900.
About every 3 minutes in America, someone is diagnosed with a blood cancer. Light the Night brings together survivors and supporters to bring light to the darkness of cancer and to help fund life-saving research. Our goal is a world without blood cancers, and we're lighting the path to cures. The discoveries made in blood cancer research have led to breakthrough treatments for many cancers and other serious diseases. Help defeat the darkness of cancer. Join Light the Night today.
The skills you develop as a soldier in the Army National Guard can give you a head start on your career. Gain practical experience with technology and equipment that will give you a leg up in the civilian world. Learn critical leadership skills and to be part of a team. Serve your community and your country part-time while earning money for an education. Visit NationalGuard.com to learn about the paid training and career opportunities available to you in the Army National Guard.
Mark Zupan, part of the U.S. Paralympic rugby team. In my game, movement is everything. I get frustrated when my move is blocked, especially when that guy has no right to be there, even just for a minute. I love a challenge, but I don't like to play this game every day.
A message from the United Spinal Association.
Checking primetime headlines, the deputy director of the FBI, Andrew McCabe, is stepping down from his post immediately. McCabe has found himself the target of criticism from the White House over the ongoing Russia investigation. ABC's Lana Zach has the latest from Washington.
The White House had little to say about the announcement that Andrew McCabe would immediately be leaving his position as deputy director of the FBI.
I didn't say the president wasn't part of this decision-making process, and we would refer you to the FBI.
But President Trump had previously been vocal about his criticisms of McCabe, tweeting in December, "How can FBI Director Andrew McCabe, the man in charge, along with leaking James Comey of the phony Hillary Clinton investigation, be given $700,000 for wife's campaign by Clinton puppets?"
President Trump was acting in extraordinary ways toward Andrew McCabe, in asking him how he'd voted and putting political pressure on him. All of that, I think, adds up to a climate that made it hostile for Andrew McCabe to continue with the FBI.
Just last week, new reports surfaced that in an Oval Office meeting last year, the president asked McCabe how he voted in the presidential election, to which McCabe responded he does not vote.
I don't remember asking him the question.
Do you think Robert Mueller would be fair to you?
I think it's also a very unimportant question.
Some thought that question reminiscent of the idea of a loyalty pledge that the president was said to have sought from then FBI Director James Comey. McCabe temporarily replaced Comey after he was fired by the president as acting director.
McCabe was expected to announce his retirement in March, and though he's stepping away from his deputy director duties immediately, his formal retirement won't come until the spring, allowing him to maintain his eligibility for a full government pension. Lana Zach, ABC News, Washington.
You might remember Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito, who is no fan of President Obama, skipped most of his State of the Union addresses. Now, Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg is returning the favor. Ginsburg will not be in attendance for President Trump's first State of the Union address tomorrow night. The justice will be in Rhode Island for two events. Ginsburg, who attended all of the former President Barack Obama's annual speeches, has feuded publicly with Trump in the past. She has called Trump a faker in 2016. Trump hit her back on Twitter, calling Ginsburg's statement about him very dumb and saying that, quote, her mind is shot. Justice Alito and Clarence Thomas joined Ginsburg in skipping Trump's first congressional address last February. One of the most controversial sports logos looks to be going away for good. Starting in 2019, the Cleveland Indians will no longer feature the Chief Wahoo logo on its uniforms. The Native American logo has been long condemned by critics as being offensive and racist. In a statement, MLB Commissioner Rob Manfred said both he and the team agreed the logo is no longer appropriate for on-field use. The Cleveland Indians have long resisted efforts to shift away from using Native American mascots, logos, and nicknames. And that's all the time we have for this evening. I'm Alan Cohn. Thanks for joining us. Have a good night.